Hey guys, welcome to tonight's Team Arise call. Super excited to be here for everyone who is at the team retreat this weekend. It was absolutely fantastic, the most fun I've had in a really long time. Very educational, and it's just unbelievable. I know so many more people so much more intimately, so it's just wonderful. So if you weren't able to make it, we totally missed you, and I highly recommend that you make it a top priority and a goal to go to the next one. It is worth it. It was fantastic. So thank you, Rose, for that and inviting me. It was awesome. So I'm really happy to have invited one of my best friends. He's like a brother to me, and he is my sponsor into this business, Bob Lucido. It took him almost a year to get me to join. Yes, I am that stubborn, and I am just so incredibly glad that he kept at it, and he wasn't pushy, but whenever the moment would arise, if I complained about something, about not having enough money or not being able to lose weight, he would just gently nudge me, and I finally got on board. Bob was an environmental attorney for more than 20 years. He has 4 amazing children, and he is married to my best friend, Shiva. He is a 10-star diamond, 2 times elite, all-star Beachbody coach. He was on the coach advisory board, which is called the CAB, for 2 years. And he is also a member of the Millionaire Club. So thank you so much, Bob, for being on here tonight with us.
Thank you. Thanks for such a wonderful introduction. I'm thrilled to be here and excited for the year that we all have ahead as Beachbody coaches. So I'll just jump right in. I do plan to open things up for discussion, by the way, and please, if along the way you have questions or comments or want to jump in, please do whatever you need to do to raise your hand or just do one of these things, and Rose or Lisa will see you and bring you in. I always actually by discussion. And I always open with that, and then Lisa will tell you I'm also probably one of the most long-winded individuals that you will meet on the planet. So I have a tendency to just continue to ramble on after saying that. But that's why I like to put that invitation out first, because I really want to do not me. I really do want everybody to be able to jump in if you want to. Lisa is saying my internet is a little satellite internet, so that might be the case. Is it so bad that you can't follow along? Anybody?
I can understand you. I think it's okay. Read between the lines a little. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely keep going, just to make you aware of it.
Okay. Put that over here. All right. So what I'll do is continue. If it's so horrible you can't even hear what I'm saying or something, then just go ahead and wave me down, okay? Let's jump right in. Lisa asked me to talk a little bit about going from coach to leader, which really is a huge topic, but also a crucially important topic, because what we do as coaches is we build and lead communities. That's what this is all about. When you boil it all down to what do we do as coaches, we attract and build small communities, and we duplicate that process, and we support people to succeed in that same process. So, of course, leadership is a huge concept. I'm going to bring leadership tonight down to the most simplest components. And so that I don't forget later, just let me throw out there, if you want to dig deeper into the leadership concepts that I think are some of the most valuable. Any of the John Maxwell stuff is fantastic. There's one in particular, I think it's called the 4 stages or 4 levels of leadership. I know Lisa's read that one before. And if you guys have a team page or something, maybe you can put that one up. I think that's very, very important book, actually, especially in this business, for people to read, because it also boils leadership down to some of the very most core principles. And that's what I want to talk about tonight. To be the greatest leader, you will be the greatest servant. The greatest leaders are the ones who are out there actually helping people, getting the job done, and people follow people who are getting the job done. And most importantly, and one of the concepts that John Maxwell talks about in that book, and I think is really crucial for us as coaches to understand, when people trust that you actually have their best interest in mind, then your leadership abilities expand tenfold, maybe 10,000-fold. I don't know, exponentially. And that's where you want to get to be. But here's the cool thing. That's also the most simplest place to be. And so the way to get there, the way to get to become a really good leader, in my humble opinion anyways, is to practice a lot. Leadership is not something you learn from a book. Just like relationships are not something that you learn from a book, right? You can get a lot of cool tips from reading stuff, but you don't learn how to make relationships with people until you get out there and get in some relationships, right? Because it doesn't always follow the book, right? It's like, whoa, what happened here? I missed that chapter, right? So, but leadership's the same kind of way. And again, if leadership is simply about learning how to really help people and help people see that they can trust that you're really there for their best interests, which means they're going to follow your guidance, then that means you got to actually be bringing some good guidance to the table, right? And that's why you don't learn how to lead from reading a book. You lead from doing what it is that you want to lead people to do. It starts by you showing that you know how to do it. And Maxwell talks about that in those 4 levels of leadership too. Step 1 is people got to see that, yes, you do know how to do this, which means you get in the trenches and you do the daily disciplines or the vital behaviors or, whatever it is that you're working with as a team. Those action items that we share with our coaches and we want to duplicate, number 1, we have to be doing them. We have to be the example of what it is that we're trying to lead. But even that's not enough, because I can be the greatest at this, but if Lisa doesn't trust that I'm actually invested in her being the greatest too, she's not going to follow and she's not going to let me lead. So I have to, number 1, prove that I know how to do it, but also number 2, show my team or whoever it is that I'm working with that I'm also invested in really teaching them how to do it and showing them how to do it. And then that's where that trust thing comes in. Okay? So here's the thing, and here's the challenge. You want to put yourself in as many opportunities to practice doing that as possible. And here's some good ones. You got to start leading yourself. Leading is about stepping up and taking responsibility, right? Following is pretty cool. You get to sit back and you let somebody else make sure that the group's going to happen. Make sure that something's going to, some action's going to happen today. Lead a free group. It can be 5 people. That's a great place to just practice doing the things that you're talking about. Free drink a glass of water a day group. Okay, if I'm going to be the leader of this group, I better drink a glass of water every day. So let's pick one that I can do and that I can succeed at, and then get in there and do it. And that lays the framework for you to grow into leading bigger things. So seek out those opportunities. And again, it's a personal challenge. Leadership is something that you got to challenge yourself to. Are you going to do a team cup? Are you going to do a team in the team cup challenge? If so, can you lead the team? As scary as that is, and I know for a lot of us it's super scary, but it's a great place to start. Can you be responsible to make sure that the group meets each week? Can you be responsible to make sure that the pieces of the group thing happen? Because folks, I'm here to tell you that's what we do as coaches. This isn't easy, right? It's a job, it's a business, right? It's not a lottery ticket, but it's the funnest, and in my opinion, some of the easiest work out there. But it does have to be done. And the leadership component really just means you're the one who steps up to be responsible to make sure something happens. And that gets the snowball going. It's that easy. It really is. Another great example, a fit club. I'm banging the hammer on fit clubs this year, by the way, and shaking chairs, because I'm a huge fan of people getting together in person. Why? Because there's an energy that happens that cannot be conveyed over the internet. Lisa just talked about the team party, or the team party. I'm sure it was a party, but the team retreat that you guys had, right? I've been to a bunch of those too. There's an energy that's different when you get together with people and you're in person. So where can you do those kinds of things and be the leader? And it doesn't even have to be beach body related. Are you into hikes? Can you lead a hiking group of 2 people even? That's it, right? Just be the one. Start there. There's your leadership beginning, okay? And the way that we get ourselves better, by the way, at achieving goals is we set little ones and we achieve them. So I'm going to lead a hike next week. Okay, I'm going to invite 2 of my friends to come with me. Hopefully one does, but I'm going to set the time. I'm going to show up where we're supposed to meet. I'm going to complete the hike happily and enthusiastically. And whoever shows up there, I'm going to take the responsibility to guide the energy of that experience. That's all leaders do. Guide the energy of that experience, and then let everybody who's involved bring their talents along. Leadership does not mean do everything for everybody. It simply means be the one to facilitate the opportunity, right? Nobody can have an opportunity to work out in a live setting if you're not providing the fit club opportunity, right? Leading your challenge groups, and challenge yourself to lead a challenge group for that very purpose. Because one day down the road, when you're the leader of a big coaching team, guess what we do? You lead things that look a lot like challenge groups, but they have to do with your coaches, your business partners, and how you continue to grow community. And that's a big word, by the way, and an important word, and one I want to underline here. As you do your outside research and study on leadership, and I do think you should, don't go home and say, all right, I heard Bob Lucido talk on leadership. Got that one. I'm done with that one. No, right? Continue your study on leadership. Continue community leadership study. A lot of times we do leadership, business leadership, and business-related stuff, and all the personal growth that we do has to do with that, which is cool. And even John Maxwell and Brian Tracy, they're a lot about business leadership and how to structure and run your business. This is more like community, and so community building, and see if you can send your focus to that aspect, and that kind of thing. Okay, so I think you get that concept. So what I want to ask everybody to do, and what I want to challenge you to do, is ask yourself right now, how many leadership opportunities are you actually putting yourself in as a Beachbody coach? What are some of the things that you're doing that have you in a leadership role? And are you doing the things that you're leading in that group? How well are you completing those things? And then I want to stop right there just for a moment and just open up for feedback, questions on this sort of opening the doors to leadership. Is everybody understanding what I'm talking about? We're talking about just partnering with people in the very beginning. You can lead one person in the beginning, but it's about, and that's why we talk about those vital behaviors, because that's what we're leading people to do. So we got to do them ourselves, and then we invite people to do that with us. And a lot of times leadership is simply showing up. Leadership is simply showing up, setting up the apparatus, and then showing up. And that's where it starts. So let's open up a little discussion on that portion and that concept. Is that making sense to everybody? Anybody have any feedback? Anybody want to share some of the things that you're doing right now, or you're maybe going to challenge yourselves to do this year that you haven't done before, that will put you in that leadership role opportunity? Anybody? Come on, somebody's got to be leading something out there.
I'll share.
Hey, I see you.
So something that I am focusing on this year is my leadership style is is more micromanaging. So my goal this year is really to macromanage my team and really to push my team out of the nest and really give them the autonomy and to encourage them to really establish their own team, their own their own vibe, their own branding, and really kind of create that themselves versus me giving them their own ideas, me helping them run their groups, really doing that on their own. And so I've pushed them out of my nest, and that's something that I really want to focus on with cultivating my new leaders too, is really not hand-holding, giving them the tools, and then really letting them flourish.
Good thing. Good stuff. And thanks for sharing. Again, like I said, I think this stuff really picks up speed in the discussion role. Micromanaging versus macromanaging. Great point, and something we have to be careful of as coaches. Micromanaging works good in the corporate setting. It works horrible in the network marketing setting, right? And so great point. I'm glad you brought that up. Some of us, especially some of us who do kind of jump out and find personal success, and you're that choleric leadership, natural personality. I'm a huge micromanager, and this was a big lesson I had to learn, because you can easily just turn this into another 9 to 5 where you're working 20 hours a day, micromanaging, doing everything for everybody, when actually network marketing is about empowering others to do on their own. And you want to be able to push your leaders away. You want your leaders to go off on their own, and you want the ripple effect, like when you throw a stone in the middle of the pond. Think about that. That's how you want your leaders to be. And your first leaders go further and further and further away as they carry on their own. And then there's the other sets of them that keep growing in between. And you want to have that idea on how you're growing. But here's the balance to that. You don't want to push away so far that the web breaks, because this is also a network. And that's where the community stuff goes. I want Lisa to succeed and be as my personally sponsored coach, have the highest possible success as possible and the hugest team possible. But I always want to be connected with her, because my network and my community depends upon our connection. It's the heart connection. It's the core connect. It's the connections that we have with our leaders and our teams are so important. And so here's something you always want to keep in mind to balance that push out of the nest is let's do instead of go do. So let's all start team pages this year when I'm talking to my mastermind group of my top 5 coaches. And I'll be in there with you and we'll help and we'll go. Never go do it on your own kind of thing, if that makes sense. Always be right there. But be right there and less as that grows on, okay? So that was number 1. And then there was another piece in there too about what you shared. What was the other thing you talked about besides micro and macro? Oh, I'm sorry. No, it was a question that came up while you were talking. Somebody typed in a question about free groups. So let me transition into that about how do you use those great leadership opportunities where you get to go in and say, let's take a 5-minute walk a day group, and people get in there, right? Well, here's the way you transition that. Those become really big. They should, because those are easy to invite into. And those become the mouth of your funnel. From those, when you get 25 people who say they're going to do it with you, and you find out that drinking a glass of water a day actually isn't that easy. And only 5 of those 25 people actually did it with you all 7 days. But those 5 people were going to get an invitation from you into your challenge group or your next level group. It's about moving your funnels, moving people through your funnels. And the free groups are just the opening of the funnel. And I encourage people to do free groups too that have nothing to do with Beachbody. That's why I say, you take a hike group or, sewing club or, whatever you like to do, start a free group about that. Because again, it's more about I just want to make connections with people. I want to have opportunities to lead because somebody told me that the best way to become a good leader is to just practice at it and get myself in situations where I can lead wherever I am. And you want to do that. Challenge yourself from now on. When you're at the parent-teacher meeting in the classroom and nobody wants to talk and it's silent, be the one who stands up and says, hey, how you doing? Let's get this thing going. Because that's your opportunity to practice your skill that is the heart of this business. And again, for some of us, that's scary, but that's how we do it. And you want to seek out those opportunities to do that. And again, that's why those free groups are great. Do free groups at home too. I don't necessarily mean at home, although home parties are great. I just mean live and in person. Again, that might have nothing to do with Beachbody or even health and fitness in any way. Whatever it is that you're into, go lead a group and guess what? A few things are going to happen. You're going to get some leadership practice. You're also going to be meeting new people. And what happens in these free groups is we get people an opportunity to get exposure to us. And they say, wow, Rose ran this really, really cool drink water every day group. And I mean, the care and effort that she put into that group, it turns out she does this other stuff too. And I'm so impressed with that group. I'm going to check out this other thing she's doing. It's a way to get people to get connected with you, have an experience with you. And it's a way to give you an opportunity to try out those skills. Is that making sense to everybody? Okay, good. All right, again, so I want to open it up. Anybody else want to share? Are there any groups? How about raise of hand? Who's running a challenge group? Anybody running your own challenge group? Raise your hand if you're doing that. Okay, good. We got a few people. Just about everybody. Anybody doing the free groups? Raise your hand. Okay. All right. So it looks like we've got a good bunch of you doing things. Those of you who are doing things, what are you finding as challenges as leaders? What would you like us to talk about?
I would say something we learned this year was, and even they talked about this at leadership, and Leia and you talked about this too, is as a leader, you could micromanage and you could do everything for everybody. And it's a time sucker, not a time sucker, but you're not having that right balance. So you're not able to, quote unquote, like do your own vitals. You're just stuck in that leadership mentality. So you're not inviting, you're not, doing the vital behaviors anymore. So we kind of decided together to really come back a little bit, still be leaders, but like now we're doing like our 80-day obsession group and we have like over 300 people on it, which is like so incredible. And we're each taking a part of leading that. We're each taking a part of like doing the Zoom calls together. So even though we're doing it together, we're still leaders in our own way, but we're not spinning our wheels trying to redo, like, if Leia were to run her own 80-day group and me run our my own 80-day group, it's just so much time. Whereas if we just come together, we could be doing a quarter of that time, and then 75%, we're still in phase one of inviting, being proud of the product and doing personal development and all those other things that's going to continue us to grow our business. Because I think, you get into that, let me go to diamond. I want diamond. I want diamond. You get to diamond and then you stop in your tracks because you're like, I've arrived. And that's like, no, that's when this really starts. And you still need to be in that phase one and not just to be, all right, I'm at diamond, I'm a leader, I need to control my team. And that's my job right now. And then you kind of like throw all the other stuff to the wayside when you really still need that other stuff to be a good 75% of what you're doing. So I think that was a good realization for us this year, that we still need to work as a team, but we can still be leaders and do it together. And it's going to help all of us grow our businesses.
Right, absolutely. And there's that community leadership, and that's a different level that we haven't even hit on yet. We've talked about how do I become a good individual leader, and then you got to also learn how to work within the group of leaders and how to leverage each other, because this business is a lot about leveraging. It doesn't make sense for everybody to repeat and do the exact same thing when we have the opportunity to group together. So some great points there. And then another one I want to just kind of underline there, because going back to it, because you hit it again, the micromanage thing. The other thing that does to our coaches and our team, no matter how good we are in reaching in and helping people get all the little things done, we disempower instead of empower. And as leaders, we want to be empowering people. For those of you who have kids, if you tie their shoes, it's funny that nowadays shoes don't even have shoestrings on them anymore these days. But anyways, right? If you do that for them every single day, they'll be 12, 13, 15 years old, don't know how to tie a shoe, because it's something that you have to allow them to do at some point, right, on their own. And it's the same thing with your coaches. If you're always in there micromanaging, then they don't grow. And you want to make sure that your leadership style and the things that you're doing in your leadership, we haven't even talked about mentorship groups or working one-on-one with people, but that's all part of it too, of course. You always want to make sure that you are empowering people and not disempowering. And sometimes you can have the greatest intentions and the best of intentions, but you end up disempowering people. And ask yourself about that. What are you doing to set up, again, partnerships? It's always more empowering to say, let's do, instead of I'll do, or you go do, or even watch me do. Where can you set up opportunities where you can offer that partnership to empower people to learn how to do it on their own, but also to get it done on their own? And it's always in the partnering that you're going to have that happen. And if you're working with people and the backside of that, or what always comes back is, well, what if I have somebody and, I just know they can be so good and they're just not doing it? You have to let that person run their own race, and you have to let that person move at their own pace. And just like Rose said, we need to be doing the things that successful coaches do. And that does include 75% of our time is working on ourselves, working on our own businesses, working on our own recruiting. And I'm glad you raised that point too, Rose, because it's important in this leadership conversation. We lead our groups, we lead our teams. We're building community, but job one is growing that community, because as we grow that community, then we bring in the potential and prospect real leaders. You don't create leaders, you find leaders. And that's another thing. If you're taking notes tonight, you might want to write that one down. As hard as you want somebody to succeed, if they don't want it and they're not ready to get in and play the game, it's not going to happen. So you create opportunity, you're right there ready to go, but it's up to them. And that's the way it has to be. I'm blessed to say that I have now, I think 5 personally sponsored in the Million Club, 5 personally sponsored or 5-star diamond and above, amazing success stories. Guess what? It doesn't have anything to do with me. They all did the stuff. It's about setting up opportunity, getting in there, showing up, and providing that opportunity. That's all I've ever done. In the last 9 years of this business that's netted now several millions of dollars in income, and you can run the income disclaimer under here, Rose, afterwards. I think it is important for people to know what the potential is in this business. It all comes down to what I said in the beginning: showing up yourself, being ready to do it, getting it done, and then creating the opportunity for others to do the same thing. So it's just like the analogy I started with, where I said, I'm going to host a hike next week. I'm going to invite a bunch of people, and hopefully 1 or 2 will show up, but I know I'm going to be there. I'm going to get it done. I'm going to be an enthusiastic participant, and I'm going to set up the opportunity for others to be there with me. That's what we do as coaches. And as long as you just do that and keep doing that, then good things will happen for you. Always growing your community. Rose says, leader of leaders, not leader of followers. Yeah, absolutely. More John Maxwell stuff. And that's the key concept. It really is. You want to empower people to go lead their people. And then continue to keep those connections. So, all right. So I know I'm rambling on a little bit more. I don't know where we are. With time, 9:05. I actually have to jump off for another call I'm on at 9:15. So let's open one more time. If anybody has any final questions, thoughts, anybody want to share before I have to jump?
If anyone has any questions or comments, you can just unmute yourself with the little microphone. Bob, I'll ask you one last question. What qualities do you think people need to have in order to be a leader? I see a lot of coaches that bank on one person, like that person's going to be my runner. And they spend so much time with them where, to me, the signs just aren't there. And it's kind of hard to make that separation between someone it just might not be for them and somebody who would kind of lead themselves anyways, regardless if you were there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think, and I use hopefully everyone has listened to Jim Rohn's Building Your Network Marketing Business. If you haven't, then highly recommend that. For this concept, I always go back to one of the things that he says, and with regard to what you can do with potential runners, all you can do is meet their energy. So like I said, I'm always showing up and ready to play. And so if you're there, Rose, I'm there and I'm ready to go. And if we're working one-on-one, I'm always going to reflect how much I give into this based on how much you give into this. And so if you're running and you're working with people, I'll talk to you all day long. If you have 3-way calls lined up all week long, I'm going to do 3-way calls with you all week long. You're going to get all my attention. I'm going to match your energy. But if you're not setting them up, I'm not going to call you every day and say, Rose, did you set up a 3-way call yet? Remember we talked about that? It's really important for your business it works. Okay, maybe tomorrow we'll do that. I don't ever want to chase anybody, but I'll always match, and I always offer that. And one of the things that we were taught early on, and I know Keith Callahan still does this with the Get Started Right, or whatever you call the startup interview, is a list of, here's what you can expect from me, and here's what I expect from you, setting expectations right up in the beginning. And there you can find out a lot about how hard people want to run, how much time they want to put in, and what their goals are, and what they're expecting from you, and then what you can expect from them. So no matter how much potential I think somebody has, or how bad I want it for somebody, I run with the people who are actually showing up. And if there's only a small set of people who show up, then that's what I run with. And that's an important concept too. Please hear this. Run with one or two rather than being frantic over thinking you need to have thousands. The Bearcat organization, my organization of 30,000 plus or whatever it is now, was not built because I recruited 30,000 coaches. It was because I connected with a few solid ones, those 5 that I talked about a few minutes ago, and worked together to build that, the ripples in the pond that we talked about in the beginning. It's more about connecting deeply with a few. That's where the whole leadership thing comes in. Become a leader of a few leaders, and you will do fantastic. Try to be a leader of thousands of followers, and you won't do good in this business. Someone who wants to be the leader of the masses and try to run your business that way, that's not network marketing. Be a leader of a handful of leaders, and that's where you'll leverage the highest success. Does that make sense, Rose?
Absolutely. Great way to close the night. Thank you, Bob. You're definitely somebody I've always looked up to and love your calls. Definitely took a whole boatload of notes every single time. Even though it's been 5 years, I still get something every time you talk. So I appreciate it. Thank you for taking your time to talk to us.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Have a good night, everybody. See ya.